Hi, I'm Daryl Sauser. I'm a spoken word performer. I'm going to tell another little short story. I'm going to call this The Forgotten Places. I grew up on a farm. There was many farms. Our neighbors were the Princes, the Malcolms, the Andersons, my cousin Jack Sauser, Brenners, Borines. We all lived close to each other. And we all rode the school bus together. Got to know each other, not only in school during the day, but riding on that school bus every night, every morning and evening. Going home from school and get right back on the bus in the morning and go back to school. Now I sit empty. One time I was bustling. The children were playing. The dogs were running. The radio was blaring. CJGX, Linus Westberg was giving you the sports. And the news would be coming, blaring over the radio early in the morning. The smell of coffee being brewed, bacon cooking. It was great. Outside, there's big buildings, granaries, barns with big lofts in them. It was such fun going up in these lofts and playing. If any of you don't know what a hay loft is, it was where the hay was stored for the winter for your cattle. There would be all your outbuildings, granaries and shops. Just little buildings. As a child, you'd play in them. You'd run. You have hot dogs there and wiener roasts, barbecues. Everything was bustling. Now, I'm abandoned. What am I? I'm a farmyard. 30 years ago, there was children ran everywhere and played. Bustling with activity. Grain trucks flying all over the yards. Now all there is grass growing up tall around the buildings. The windows, once majestic, are broke out of my beautiful house. The paint and siding are all chipped and gone on the house. The barn, if it's still... excuse me. If it's still there, the siding is broken, chipped, and gone. The outhouses all have their windows broke, siding again gone. The grass is growing up. Nobody cares. Nobody takes care of it. But I can remember when people loved to come in. There was roads coming in. The grass was cut. The lawns were trimmed. The roads were nice and smooth. They were graveled. There were flower beds. The houses were nice and kept up beautifully, painted well. The families that lived there were proud of their homes. They called it home. My parents were so proud when they built their home. I believe in 1967, but I could be wrong about that. It was a big day moving into that new house. Running water. You could flush the toilet. But now, I am a farmyard. I'm abandoned. I am broken down. All we have are memories. Memories that are fond. I can still hear the children playing and hear the dogs barking, cattle mooing. It was such fond memories, but they are gone. and that is part of the past. Nothing stays the same. All these farmyards are gone. Not all. There are still some. Some farmers did survive, but the majority are gone. It's a sad, sad time. But you can think about the fun and the activity we had in those days. It's a long time ago now. Riding horses at the Breens, having wiener roast at the Malcolms, just going for supper at the Putlands, playing football with many of your neighbors. I am a farmyard. I am gone, but please do not forget me. I'll tell one more short little story. I was going to tell a series of stories at the RPLs. Due to COVID, times have changed a little bit. They've been pushed back till fall from spring. But I'd been asked to tell a story about perhaps senior citizens. Well, I guess I can lump myself into that category now. But for me, when I was growing up, my grandparents were early pioneers. My dad's parents came from Minnesota in the early 1900s as immigrants in chuck wagons. I believe 30 families of them, he told me. And bought land and dispersed in the Churchbridge, Bredenbury, Saltcoats areas. They went as far as Whitewood, I believe. It was great. But can you imagine? All there were is trees and rocks, and they didn't have equipment that we do now. They done it by hand with horses, pulling them out, little rock pickers, chisels, and then they plow and harrow their crops. They didn't have great big combines and tractors. They had horse and wagon and many sons and daughters to help them. They were the early pioneer. Proud to say that what was my grandparents and then my father, coming from 10 children. He was one of the older, I believe the third oldest in the Souser family. I grew up on the Souser farm. Lots of great stories, again, were told at family functions. His brothers were quite the characters, as were his sisters, my aunts and uncles. Sousers, they become quite the people. They like to drink their beer, my dad included, and now me included as well. They're fun people. I liked all my uncles and aunts. Didn't get to know all my cousins because they lived far away in Ontario, in the United States. But I did enjoy their company when we would get together. My mother, again, immigrated from Rothbury in Berezina, not that far away. But at that time, in the early 30s, it was. Again, 10 children in her family, and they came to the Becker farm. My uncle Valentine, or my grandfather Valentine and Matilda. Again, 10 children. And they just planted and dug the land again with primitive equipment, horses, wagons, plows. Into the 30s, they started to get tractors Again, not like today. But those people worked hard for not much money. But they had friendliness on their side, family on their side. It was a very different time. I can't imagine. I didn't come along and don't remember till in the 60s is when I start to remember things. But I'm sure the 30s, 40s, 50s were quite the enduring and troubled times, but they all made the best of it. That's why they were called pioneers of the West and of Saskatchewan, of southeastern Saskatchewan is where I grew up, not far from Yorkton. So those three little stories, I think, are about all I'm going to tell today. One is about sports. The other is about farmyards that have become abandoned, what once so much an important part. And the third one is just a little bit about my family. I always think of my father, Hubert and Nita. They taught me so much. I only have one surviving uncle. Well, two, but one, my Uncle Irwin, still has the Becker farm. And an Uncle Fred Hutchings are the only two uncles that I have left. It was quite the time growing up with those people. So I think that's about all I will tell for today. I will continue to try and do a series of this and hopefully turn it into something great. I hope everyone enjoyed it. There wasn't a lot of big thrill and activity in these, but just think of the children playing baseball and the men playing hockey and baseball. The men and children playing baseball, partying afterwards, and then the farmers, pioneers of the land, working hard during the day, but getting together for good meals and good music at night. I think that's about all I will say for today. Thank you. I'm glad you listened. Have a good day.